Hi, I'm Rohil.
My name's Sarav.
I'm Tyler.
And we're going to be educating you guys on terrorism.
Terrorism is like a disease. If you don't stop it, it will spread.
In the events of September 11, 2001, there was a major terrorist attack on the Twin Towers. On 9/11, two hijacked planes crashed into the Twin Towers, killing almost 3,000 people.
Boko Haram is one of the four main terrorist groups. They are responsible for kidnapping 276 women and children.
The next terrorist group is ISIS. They are located in Iraq and Syria. They are known for truck bombing and beheading people. One of the attacks they caused was the Paris attack. It had killed 137 people.
Al-Qaeda is responsible for the two World Trade Centers attacks, including 9/11.
The next group is Taliban. They're located in northern Pakistan and have fatal weapons and attack schools and kill children. We decided to interview our tech ed teacher, since he was a military officer previously, on how he feels about terrorism. Here's a quick 5-minute video on how he feels on terrorism. Okay, how is terrorism negatively impacting the world right now?
Well, terrorism is just a tactic, and what it involves is disgruntled groups or states, nation states, have to resort to killing civilians, which essentially is what terror is, or destroying civilian infrastructure. It means going after, it's asymmetrical warfare, meaning that instead of fighting on a battlefield against trained troops against other trained troops using military equipment, terrorists engage in warfare against civilians usually, and it's done to demoralize the people they're fighting. So I think that is, when you have a society or a group of people that resort to that type of violence, then we have problems. So we need to figure out why it's happening, and if we can't correct it peacefully, we need to go after those people and destroy them.
So as you know, a new president just got elected, and so what is your view on terrorism? Does it need to be like the first thing that he focuses on, or like America's economy or anything like that?
No, I think if you look at the statistics, Americans are more likely to die of a lightning strike or being eaten by a shark than being killed in a terrorist attack. Terrorism is designed to create panic in a population. To the terrorists or people that practice terrorist tactics don't have any ability to undermine the United States or our democracy. All they can do is engage in random acts of violence and kill people, small numbers of people, but that creates a big impression in our media, and people overreact to those types of attacks. They are tragic, they are violent, but our greatest threat is not terrorism. So we should not overreact, and our primary concern is not to undermine our civil rights and our guaranteed by the Constitution because of terrorism. That's what the terrorists want us to do.
What is your experience of terrorism in the Navy? How has it affected you?
Well, when I was in the military, I didn't have any personal experience with terrorism or terrorist tactics. And again, terrorism is just a tactic. It can be used by any number of groups. It's primarily used by people who don't have strong militaries, and they have to engage in this kind of warfare to get their political goals realized, or to get started on realizing them. But I did have, terrorism has always been around since recorded history. But when I was in the military, I was in the Marine Corps, and we had more Marines killed in Beirut in one day than since the Battle of Iwo Jima. What happened was a guy, we were stationed on the base, and I wasn't there, but the Marines were stationed in Beirut on the beach, and they were housed in a large building, and a truck loaded with bombs drove through the front gate and plowed into the building, and then the driver ignited the bombs in there, and that killed over 200 Marines. So that was a major terrorist incident. Up until that time, we had not had any major problems with terrorism. So that would be the only experience that I've really had.
What are some of the technologies you know that can help terrorism cases?
Well, I think that normal police work will do the job. I think you have to be careful resorting to technology to deal with problems that involving human beings. We can use drone attacks, and that is safe. I mean, we don't commit any actual troops or personnel involved in something like that, but terrorism is not an issue that can be solved by technology. We have to be very responsible in dealing with threats abroad, that we don't incite terrorism against the United States. People don't realize that this war against the global war on terror really started back in, I think it was 1996, perhaps 1998, when Osama bin Laden and Al-Qaeda issued a fatwa against the United States. It was essentially a declaration of war. Now, Bill Clinton was president then, and what Bill Clinton did in Iraq is institute a sanctions regime, meaning that he prevented supplies from going into Iraq after the Desert Storm or the first Gulf War. And that supposedly resulted in the deaths of a lot of Iraqi citizens.
Some prevention methods for terrorist attacks are detecting explosives and other weapons in airports, help protecting critical infrastructure, and cyber networks.
Device there. I told my men to let me check things out as I had to look for wherever the explosive device could have been buried there or placed, and I didn't find it until I ultimately triggered the device.
And what happened then?
I remember it very vividly. It didn't knock me out. When the device went off, it was a pressure plate that was underneath of my feet. I can remember it tumbling me through the air. I probably landed maybe 5 or 10 feet from where I had been standing previous to that detonation. And when it detonated, there was a very large plume of dust, a big cloud of dust as it was buried in the ground. And so I couldn't see anything because of this haze that was browning everything out around there. And I'm laying on the ground, the wind was knocked out of me. I'm realizing there's a pretty good reason I couldn't stand up, and I still had my combo device in my ear so I could hear my men that were in the situation around me radioing up what had happened, and they're saying EOD is hit, EOD is down. So I was the only EOD technician. I knew that I was the one that was struck by the device.